Hello and welcome to How to Make More Sales with me, Anna Payne, supporting you to make more sales in a way that feels good for you and your clients. If you're ready for more sales, more impact, more success and more money on your terms, you're in the right place. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Today we are talking about how you can talk about what you do in a way that makes people pay attention, remember you, and want to know more. And I love this topic because it sounds simple, but it's one of those things that is sometimes actually really quite tricky to get right. And I know from personal experience, we can really overthink it. We get too close to it to be able to see what it actually is or what it should be, or we try to be too clever, too one of a kind, too niche, or we make it all about us instead of our clients. So there are all sorts of ways that we can get this quite simple task wrong, or that we can go off piste. But when we get it right, it can honestly make such a difference to your sales, because before people can buy from you, before they can refer to you, before they can recommend you, before they can even ask you a good follow-up question after you've introduced yourself, they need to be able to understand quickly and clearly exactly who it is you help and what it is you help them to do. And if your messaging around that isn't crystal clear and easy to understand instantly, people won't hang around trying to figure it out. They'll just assume it's either not of interest or not for them, and they'll move on because people are busy and they need to be able to connect the dots really quickly. So that's the first principle I want you to think about today. Make it really easy for people to understand who you help and what you help them achieve. We are living in a world where researchers suggest that the average adult is exposed to more than 10,000 marketing messages every single day. In addition to those 10,000 marketing messages a day, the average adult is making around 30,000 decisions a day. Some of those are big decisions, some of those are micro decisions, some of those are decisions that we might not even really consciously be aware of. Our brains, our conscious brains, simply cannot process all of that. So our job is to show up consistently with a really clear and compelling message so that the right people, our people, recognize us, even in amongst all of that noise. And also you have to be comfortable with that message and being consistent, that you can repeat it over and over and over again. And actually, I think that's teaching point 1 for today's podcast. Please never underestimate how many times you have to say how you help people. You should be repeating this in some way, shape or form daily. So here in this episode, I am going to make sure that you have a framework to create exactly that, a clear and compelling way to introduce yourself and to talk about how you help people, what you do that helps you to cut through all of that noise and to stand out. Now, I meet a lot of people at events, at networking, online, in conversations, and I see people who are brilliant at what they do, but then I or someone else will say to them, so what do you do? And suddenly it all gets a bit vague, or sometimes they even might get a bit embarrassed and they'll say, there's a bit of and well, I sort of do this, I might do this, or I'm working on that at the moment. So that can be one manifestation of the problem, that vagueness and inability to articulate what you do. But then another way that sometimes a problem with introducing yourself in this way can show up is that somebody will take a deep breath and I can almost see them like brace themselves, and then they launch into what is obviously a sort of rehearsed elevator pitch, which is fine, but it doesn't sound particularly human or natural, and it doesn't necessarily flow in conversation. And straight away, because it feels out of context, you can almost see people put their guard up because they think, oh, this person's about to pitch me. This person that I don't know who I've just met is about to sell me something. And beyond those two ends of the spectrum, I think there are a couple more common pitfalls to watch out for. So people can often go too broad and abstract. So I'm a coach, or I'm a consultant. Okay, I still don't really know who that's for or what that means. Or they go straight into the process. I run a 12-week program for business owners, or I help with data systems. And again, none of those things are wrong, but they do not necessarily make the right person stop and think, oh, actually, I need to speak to you because that is exactly what I need. But when you work on this and get to a message that you're really happy with, everything does become easier. It becomes easier to introduce yourself at networking, to write your social media bio, to explain your offer, to pitch yourself as a guest on podcasts, to write content and all sorts of other marketing and visibility jobs. But it also becomes easier for people to remember you. It becomes easier for you to be known for what you actually do, and for the right people to realize that your work is for them or for somebody they know. Let's move into teaching point 2, which is that people buy the destination, not the journey. So most business owners, when they talk about what they do, especially service business owners who don't have a physical product that they can show, they default to talking about their process, about the deliverables, about their methodology, their frameworks, the sessions, the package. And the problem is that nobody buys a process first. Nobody wakes up in the morning thinking, oh, if only I just had a 12-week coaching program that I could get started. They wake up thinking about their problem, their dream, or whatever annoying roadblock that is standing between where they are now and where they want to be. They wake up thinking, I want to make more money. I want to feel more confident. I want to have better balance and more free time, or I want to feel more in control of my money, or I want this part of my life or this specific part of my business to feel easier. So your job is to speak to that first, the solution, the transformation, the desired result. Your program or your sessions is how you deliver that result, but it's not the reason that they buy. They are buying the promise of a result. They are buying an aspirational future version of themselves that is happier, healthier, wealthier, or otherwise upgraded because they've bought your product or service. So they buy the destination. Now, if you're a coach or a consultant, service business owner, sometimes that can be hard to distinguish between what is a feature or a deliverable and what is a benefit. But let's think about this a bit like booking a holiday, because that then will give you context. So if you go to a travel agent and ask them to book you a holiday, they usually don't start by saying, great, amazing, fantastic news. I can offer you a flight at 6 a.m. from Edinburgh Airport. And when you arrive, you'll check in your luggage, you show your passports, and then you'll go upstairs. There's a lift or an escalator, you go up to security, then you're in departures, and then you board the plane, you're on the plane for 9 hours, and then when you arrive, you'll go through passport control again. I mean, yawn. I've stopped listening at that point. I actually don't care because I'm not emotionally invested yet. But the other travel agent, they get it. They sell you the dream. They sell the destination. And sure, they might tell you those logistical things later in the process because, of course, the details do matter, right? But first, they sell the destination, the warm sunshine, the beautiful hotel that's 5 stars and it's won multiple awards for comfort, style, luxury, how every room has got a balcony facing the ocean, the beautiful crystal clear water that you can snorkel in, the relaxed mornings where you get to choose every day whether you have breakfast on your balcony or down on the beach with your toes in the sand. Oh, sign me up. Take my money, because you have told me enough about that aspirational destination, the destination, the outcome, how good it is going to be when you get there, and you are hooked. And once you're hooked in, then they can give you the logical details and then they can close the sale. So think about sales psychology. Emotion and logic are both real drivers of sales, but emotion first. Emotion is what creates that resonance, that desire to buy, and logic comes in second. That's when the logical part of a consumer's brain will kick in and say, well, what is this? How much is it? When is it? Where is it? What's the weather? What does it say on TripAdvisor? How long is the transfer time? How long is the flight? Those logistics, they matter because you now have a real desire to buy the thing, because you are already invested in that aspirational future version of you that is sitting with your toes in the sand, watching dolphins as the sun is setting. You're there mentally, you're already checked in. So yes, now you need to know the logistics and feel safe so that you can complete the transaction and pay the deposit on that holiday. Now, it is the same with your offer, your program, your sessions, your package, your framework, your toolkit, your support. All of these things matter, but they are the route, they are the journey. And your message needs to speak to the destination first. So how do we do that? Let's move into teaching point 3, which is where I'm going to give you a formula. A really simple formula that I come back to again and again. So here it is. I help a specific person X, achieve a specific outcome or result, Y, so they can, immediate benefit, A, and longer term benefit, emotional impact or wider ripple effect, B. Or even more simply, I help X achieve Y so they can, A and B. And I know that sounds simple, but simple is good. Simple is powerful, and it forces you to move away from what you do and actually into what your client actually gets and why it matters to them. And it helps you to move away from the mechanics and the deliverables actually into the bits that make it meaningful and compelling and exciting. And I think the so they can or so you can bit, that is where so much of the magic happens, because that is where you move beyond that really functional result. You are not just saying what somebody gets, but you're saying why it matters now in the immediate term, and also why it matters in the longer term, in the bigger picture, because you're talking about what that result makes possible. So when you're working on your own message, remember the formula. I help X kind of person achieve Y kind of outcome or result so they can, A, immediate benefit, and B, longer term benefit or emotional impact. That is your start point. Sure, then get creative. Deviate from the structure if you want, but get it right at a basic level and then get fancy. Don't try and get fancy first. Follow the formula. Now, doing that, sometimes that can be hard. So how do we do it? We want to look at this maybe through a couple of different lenses to make it as real and as valuable as you can. So think about it using person, problem, promise. And again, this helps you keep it client-centered. So you're really focusing and you're making your messaging about the client. It's not about you and it's not about your offer. It's about the client. So person, problem, promise. Person. Who specifically do you help? And the more specific you get, the better. Problem. What is the core problem they have, or the thing that is holding them up or causing them friction as they are trying to move away from where they are now and towards what it is that they really want? What is making it difficult to get from A to B? And then promise. What result do you help them achieve? What does life or business look like on the other side of working with you? What changes? What becomes easier? What do they feel, do, create, earn, understand, decide, or experience as a result of your work together? So again, the formula is I help X kind of person achieve Y kind of result or outcome so they can A, immediate benefit, and B, longer term benefits. And then we understand that through the lens of person, problem, and promise. That sentence starts to become much easier to write and much more robust. So the rule really to remember is this: most people will talk about themselves and what they do. They'll talk about their offer. But the people who attract leads, the people who get recommended and get referrals, the people who make more sales, they talk about what their clients get and why it matters. I've got two super simple stress tests that I would invite you to use. Test one, the 8-year-old test. The average 8-year-old should be able to understand clearly what you do, and it should be that simple. Not because your audience are stupid, they absolutely are not, but they are busy. They've got such a tiny window of attention and time to recognise that your message is relevant to them before they dismiss it and move on. So keep it really simple and don't make things too clever. People do. They use industry language, they use jargon, they try and be polished or professional, but actually it doesn't really say anything. It's like word salad. So simple means easy to understand, and easy to understand is generally easier to buy from. So 8-year-old test. If you have an 8-year-old, amazing. If you don't, find an 8-year-old, borrow an 8-year-old and figure out if they can understand what you do. Now, test number 2. Imagine that you were listening to a couple of people at the table next to you. One definitely is your ideal client, and they are sitting with a friend and they're talking honestly about what is really going on for them. What actual language would they use? That is the language that you want in your message. Put your statement through that second stress test and think, when you say that sentence to your ideal client or when they read it, is that going to make them think, oh, I feel like that was written just for me, or I feel like you voiced exactly what I've been thinking, or you're a mind reader. Because when you get that kind of response, you know that you've nailed it. And another, I think we're on to teaching point 7 now. This is about leading with aspiration, because I think that the type of language that we use is really important. And I see a lot of messaging that leads very heavily with pain. Like, are you exhausted? Are you burnt out? Is your nervous system in overload? Are you drowning in your tasks? Are you overwhelmed? Are you stuck, broke, exhausted, or otherwise broken? And actually, honestly, I have got massive problems with the words stuck and overwhelmed, real bugbears of mine in marketing. And I understand why people do that. I understand there is a place for naming the problem and the pain. Of course there is. People need to feel seen, and they need to see that you understand and recognize where they are now. But if you only talk to people who identify as stuck or broken, that's who you're going to attract in your world. And typically, those people don't necessarily make the best clients. For me, I want to work with ambitious people, action takers, the ones who are aspirational. Now, they generally do not identify with being victims. They do not necessarily see themselves as stuck or broken or overwhelmed. Or sure, they might know that something needs to change or shift, but fundamentally they are aspirational, they are capable, and they're thinking about possibility. They do not recognize themselves in stuck language. So yes, speak to the gap and name what they're experiencing, but also speak to the aspiration, to speak to where they are going. And that positive language, that is the language that tends to make the right people stop and pay attention. So let me give you a personal example. I am a busy business owner. I am a mum. I am in my 40s. I have got a lot going on in life and in business. But if you ever describe me as a overwhelmed midlife mum, I will scroll straight past, because I just don't see myself in that way, even though, yes, I do tick those boxes. But I get tons of messages that talk to me about, less overwhelmed, and I just delete them. They're not for me because I don't see myself in that way. But if you described me as a successful woman who's juggling a lot, keeping everything in the air, and knowing that at some point I need to catch a breath and make some changes to release some pressure or clear bottlenecks or create more space for what really matters, or to achieve my next level of success, or that kind of what got you here won't get you there, for me, that feels really aspirational, and that feels more compelling, more accurate. It makes me pay attention. So aspirational rather than stuck, overwhelmed and broken. And that is the point. Your message needs to meet people where they are. If you want to attract aspirational, action-taking clients who trust themselves and are ready to take action, use language that talks to those people. Right. Okay, so you've got the formula, you've got the person, problem and promise lens to review it through, you've got the couple of stress tests about the 8-year-old in the coffee shop, and you've got that reminder to use appropriate language. So when you have got that compelling message, use it everywhere. You can use it at events, at networking. You can use it to introduce yourself. You can use it when you guest on podcasts or do trainings. You can use it on stage. You can use it in your social media bios. You can put a little footer at the bottom of all of your social media posts and all of your emails that say it. You can use it on the homepage of your website. You can use it in your content. You can get lots of content from it by breaking it down into different parts and addressing each of those things individually. So, action. As always, I want you not just to listen to these podcasts, but I want you to take some action. So today's action is really simple. I just want you to draft your own compelling message using the formula. And if you already have a way of introducing yourself that you use, just run it through these formulas and stress tests and check in on the language and work out. Do I have an opportunity to improve it, to make it more compelling? And then say it out loud. And make sure that it feels natural, it feels human, because sometimes something might look fine written down, but the minute you say it out loud, you think, oh, I would never say that in real life. That is just word salad. So your message has to sound like you. It needs to feel natural. So write it, say it, simplify it, make sure it's specific, make sure it's outcome focused, and then just use it. Put it in a post, share it, update your bio, use it in a networking conversation. And if you take one thing from today's episode, let it be this. People do not buy the process. They buy the result. They buy the outcome. They buy that upgraded, aspirational future version of themselves that your work is going to help them create. So lead with that. Okay, as always, thank you. Thank you so much for listening. I am so grateful for the support for this podcast. Please do subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review, and share it on social media, as every single one of those things helps. And if you're looking for more resources to help you make more sales, do come on over to my website. It's annapayne.online, where you can find a number of ways I can support you. You can find all the events that are coming up in my business. You can find some free resources to support you with sales. And you can also join Connections and Growth, my online networking membership, free for 30 days, where you can come, join the speed networking, and put your new intro to the test with some entrepreneurial friends. I would love to see you there if you would like to join us. You can find everything on my website, annapayne.online, or links in the show notes for this episode. Thank you again for spending time with me today.